Okay, super. Thank you, Lisa. Welcome everyone to my talk this morning. Wow, full room. Congratulations everyone for bearing that weather this morning. That's something else. It's a lot more pleasant being in here than out there for sure. So my talk is When SSL Fails, Tracing the SSL Vulnerability to the Most Shocking Real-World Impacts. Thanks for the introduction, Lisa. As Lisa said, I'm Michelle Simpson. I'm the head of pen testing for Vertical Structure. Just a little, I always like to give a little nugget of information about myself. So something I quite enjoy at the moment is getting outdoors, but I'm a complete newbie and wannabe. So camping, biking, kayaking, all that kind of stuff. I have a young family and I just love getting them outside. So not on a day like today. So why am I talking to you about weak ciphers? So unlike many other pen testers, I actually have always loved crypto. As mentioned in my abstract, almost every pen test report that I issue has a bunch of SSL issues reported, at least weak ciphers. So I've been questioned by my colleagues and my clients about this, and I started digging. Research is still relatively light in the area, and it was a combination of the upcoming call for papers back in March for B-Sides, and I had the pleasure of interviewing Geoff White for his latest book, Rinsed, all about money laundering and cybercrime, that I was inspired. Also trying to pester people to speak at B-Sides Belfast, I thought I'd better put my money where my mouth is and talk. So, okay, so my mission, I wanted to investigate why we should care about weak ciphers, and should we? And I wanted to see it in action. So we've got some demo fun coming up as well. So just so you know, when I talk about weak ciphers, this is the kind of list that I'm looking at. This is a list with the red lines are weak encryption ciphers. They're considered weak, and the white ones are not. They're strong. Length matters. Currently, the minimum acceptable key length is 128 bits. So when I talk about weak ciphers, what do I mean? Every website that uses encryption, it should be all of them now that certificates are free, has configured which encryption ciphers can be used to connect to that site. You connect to a site using a browser, and a web browser also has certain encryption ciphers supported and preferred for use. The browser and the website will establish an encryption connection using a chosen cipher that communications will pass back and forth through. Ideally, this will be completely protected from anyone who can see the traffic. So here's one of the example ciphers, just to give you a brief breakdown. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't want to send everyone to sleep, but TLS is the protocol in use. TLS stands for Transport Layer Security. Older ones were called SSL, Secure Sockets Layer, but it is the same thing. DH, DHE, or ECDHE, DH Diffie-Hellman, denotes the key exchange algorithm being used. RSA is the authentication mechanism. AES is the session cipher. 128 or 256 is the encryption key length in bits. So those are strong enough. CBC and GSM is the type of encryption. And SHA is the hash function for the signature mechanism. 256 or 384 is the digest size. So we'll come back to these a little bit later when we look at the results of some testing. Before we go into demo and some of the more interesting bits, I want to give a very quick, hopefully, brief history of SSL and TLS. It's important to set the scene of where we're at today. So this is a busy slide, but bear with me. Across the top, what we have are all the releases. Across the bottom are some of the more the vulnerabilities, issues, deprecations, except for one on the next slide. Okay, so I'll not do that because I need to speak in the microphone. So we start off at the top left. SSL version 2 was released in March 1995. So SSL version 1 was developed behind closed doors and never released. SSL version 2 made it out at that time. Very quickly in December 95, SSL version 3 came out because we can see below there were a number of vulnerabilities found and released. 99, we moved on to TLS version 1.0. I believe That was Microsoft insisted on the name change. Already in April 2006, we had TLS version 1.1 released, and TLS version 1.2 in 2008. So quite a lot of activity there. We're currently on TLS version 1.3, so you'll see that there's a bit of a delay now. That all happened quite quickly between 95 and 2008. In March 2011, SSL version 2 was deprecated, no longer used. Then we had a slew of vulnerabilities and attacks released. Beast in 2011, Crime, Lucky 13, RC4 issues in March 2013, Breach. In August 2013, the development for TLS 1.3 began, but it hasn't been released yet. In April 2014, we had the Heartbleed vulnerability, which we can see later on in the talk. In September 2014, Cloudflare started issuing free certificates in an attempt to start to secure the internet. In October 2014, the Poodle attack was released, and that was a big deal for SSL version 3. SSL version 3 was broken. Then we can see very quickly after that, in December 2014, Poodle was found to be a vulnerability also in TLS versions, TLS version 1.0, 1.2, or 1.1. So in February 2015, RC4 was prohibited for use by the IETF. So not just deprecated, but actually prohibited for use because it was considered so weak. We had Logjam in 2015, SSL version 3 deprecated, then more free certificates with automated issuance by Let's Encrypt in 2015, Drown in 2016, Suite 32, and then in January 2017, SHA-1 was no longer supported by major browsers, seemingly before it was exploited, but very quickly in February, SHA-1 has finally failed with the release of the Shattered attack. March 2018, in another attempt by the industry to improve security in advance of TLS 1.3, a number of, in 2018, the proposed standard for 1.3 was released after 28 revisions. In 2018 as well, TLS version 1 was deprecated, and at the end of 2018, TLS version 1.3 was finally published 10 years after the previous version. So then we have in 2020, most modern browsers stopped supporting TLS version 1.0 and TLS version 1.1. So those should no longer be used, and we're left with, currently we've got TLS version 1.2 and TLS version 1.3. There are no known issues for TLS version 1.3 at the moment. There's some weaknesses, cryptographic weaknesses with ciphers in TLS version 1.2. So some of those are considered weak, but mostly in general, those are the two protocols that we're using. So what about the shocking heinous crimes from Geoff White's book, Rinsed? Through my research and my interviews, I wasn't finding the type of connections that I was seeking. Overwhelmingly, the crimes were linked to the path of least resistance. So business email compromise, phishing, outdated software with known vulnerabilities, authentication weaknesses. I liken this to the analogy of, two houses side by side. One has a burglar alarm, the other doesn't. Which one is the thief most likely to attack? We've got some laptops there in the image with antivirus and some without antivirus, that kind of thing, or security. So the easy way in, the criminals are going to look for the easy way in. I was disappointed, but it got me thinking. Maybe when the other doors are closed. So when the easy avenues are closed, when the targets are really quite highly secured, high value targets, banking, governments, and nation state hackers. This is maybe where we get into weak ciphers being targeted. So should we care, right? It's really hard to do, There's very little by way of practical attacks. Usually there's easier methods and it's not worth the effort. And yeah, I like this. Sometimes it's easier just to ask for the password and you get it. Similarly, all of our technical wizardry doesn't often stand up to a bit of brute force. But this brings me to this quote from CryptoPals. And if anybody is interested in playing with cryptography, the CryptoPals site is really, really good, especially for developers, for you guys. It's definitely worth checking out. There's a bunch of information, a bunch of different little challenges that you can start to code your way through cryptography. It's really fun. Systems we are relying on today that aren't known to be fatally broken are in a state of just waiting to be fatally broken. So it's not a problem until it is. This is what we've seen historically. Vulnerabilities are found and then they get easier to break. The timeline showed that SHA-1 was deprecated a month before it was publicly broken. So let's see how easy Heartbleed was to exploit. This is where I'm doing my demo. I've got a video backup if something goes wrong, but bear with me a second. So I've got a vulnerable machine and a Kali version. Let's close that down. Okay. So can everyone? Oh, nobody can see that. Great. Settings. Just switch this here. Should work. Yep. Okay. Okay. So is that text okay? Can everyone see? Okay. So to start off with, one of the tools that I absolutely love for testing SSL is test SSL. Test, if I can type, test SSL.sh. So we're going to run test SSL here quickly against our vulnerable machine. SSL test HTTPS. Okay, so that takes a couple of minutes to run. So here's one I created earlier. So this is the lovely output. You can output in a bunch of different formats. It shows it nicely color-coded on the screen when it finishes running. But I quite like this HTML output, which is quite small. I wonder, can I? Is that better? Okay, so you get this lovely output, color-coded. Yes, SSL version 2 is not offered, that's okay. SSL version 3 is offered, not okay. You can see very quickly some weak ciphers are supported, so that's not okay. You've got your list based on protocol, SSL version 2, version 3, TLS version 1, which ciphers are supported. So we can scroll down through those. We've got a bunch of different. Red is not good, so that grabs your attention. The certificate has expired. And it's vulnerable to Heartbleed. Vulnerable to a bunch of other things, but we're going to look at Heartbleed now. Okay, so I think that's still running there, but I can move on. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is run nmap, which is a port scanning tool where we can enumerate services running on a host. Oh, that's not what I want. Sorry. Get pop that down there. Here we go. That's why. There we go. -v. So Nmap has all these built-in scripts that you can use. If I could type SSL Heartbleed, and the port we're testing against. So the application is running on port 8443. 192.168.123.128. Just to jump in quickly, because I probably should have explained that to start with. So I've got this application running here. That's the IP address that it's running on. And it's running on 8443. So we'll run this script against it. And we'll start getting some results. You can see an open port open on 8443. Let's see if that's still running. Okay, so this is finished, and we can see here Heartbleed is vulnerable. So we've confirmed with Nmap the results of test SSL. Now I'm going to run an exploit. So, sorry. So this is a freely available script, Python script on the internet. We can run it against any vulnerable server. 68.123.128. Okay. I know I. Python. -p 92.168.123.128. Okay. Okay, so that ran and we got some memory dumped from the server. Just scrolling up to the top, it always seems to be at the top. So we have got some information here, but it's not really useful. So there's nothing really interesting in information in memory at the moment on the server, but let's log in. Refresh that, log in, debug. Okay, and run it again. And have a look. Whoops, so here we can see now we've got some header information. We've got a session cookie for the login, and we have got the login username and password. So that was pretty easy, right? So another way that we can do this is using Metasploit, MSF console. Let's see, this is finished here, so we can see that's the results that come out just for testssl.sh. Okay, so in MSF console, we're going to search for Heartbleed. We're going to use auxiliary scanner SSL. Open SSL, Heartbleed. Okay, show options. So here we need to set the remote hosts, and the remote port is the wrong port at the moment. So set our hosts 192.168.123.128. Set our port 8443. Okay, show actions. We're going to set action scan and run. So that has said the Heartbleed has responded with a leak. But now we're going to refresh this, log in again, log out and log in. Bug. Okay, and we're going to run set action dump. Run. It shouldn't take long. There we go. So we've got results in this binary file. So we're going to copy that and run strings, paste strings. And there we've got the same. We get the session cookie. We've got the login, username, and password. So that's just two different ways that we can exploit it. Really, really easy. Really easy. So that's any vulnerable server on the internet. Don't do this, by the way. Unless you have permission. So this bbox is a vulnerable server that you can use to play with. But you will be in breach of the Computer Misuse Act if you do it on servers you don't have permission to do. So, but that is how easy it is. Okay. So let's jump back into slides. See what we've got. Okay, so what are the shocking real-world impacts of this, right? So there's a bunch. There's massive data breaches. So the Sony PlayStation Network breach in 2011 was understood to have had weak cipher play a pivotal part in the breach. Heartland payment system attackers intercepted over 100 million credit card details, leading to $140 million in losses. They breached the network with an injection vulnerability, but once they captured the network traffic, they were able to crack the encryption key because it was using, I believe, a 56-bit key. Remember, we said the minimum length is now 128 bits, so that was easy to crack. TJX Company's breach in 2005, one of the largest retail breaches at the time. Attackers exploited weaknesses in the web encryption, cracking the RC4-based web encryption, allowing them to steal 45 million credit and debit card numbers. There's more examples. Another is state-sponsored espionage. So weak ciphers played a part in the RSA Secure ID breach in 2011, which enabled attacks against high-profile targets like defense contractors, compromising national security. And the Stuxnet malware used in sabotaging Iranian nuclear centrifuges leveraged weak cryptographic controls, setting a precedent for cyber warfare. Economic devastation, so ransomware epidemics, weak encryption in older Windows systems was exploited in WannaCry ransomware in 2017, devastating hospitals, businesses, governments, costing billions globally and endangering lives due to disrupted healthcare systems. Undermining global trust. So HTTPS downgrade attacks like Logjam in 2015 rendered supposedly strong encryption weak, enabling mass surveillance and data theft. MD5 and SHA-1 collisions allowed attackers to forge certificates, undermining trust in digital signatures and secure websites. Humanitarian crisis, intercepted communications of activists, weak encryption used in messaging platforms has led to exposure of activists' identities in authoritarian regimes, resulting in arrests, torture, or even executions. Healthcare record exposures, inadequately encrypted hospital databases have been breached, leading to sensitive patient data being leaked. Critical infrastructure attacks, power grid compromises, weak cryptography in industrial control systems allowed attacks on the Ukraine's power grid in 2015-2016. Financial scams and fraud, ATM card cloning involves outdated encryption on payment systems, like magnetic stripe cards being exploited in large-scale cloning operations. Long-term vulnerabilities from backdoors. So there's the dual EC DRBG controversy from NIST in the US. A known backdoor was allegedly inserted by the NSA, exploited by attackers, which demonstrated how intentionally weakened cryptography can spiral out of control. So these events all highlight the critical need for robust encryption standards and constant vigilance in addressing vulnerabilities. So I promised some practical takeaways. I demoed testssl.sh. SSL Labs is a really quick and easy way to check your sites. So sslabs.com. Make sure to check the do not show results if you don't want them to be publicized. You can put in your website and you get a lovely results with breakdown of the encryption ciphers supported and any issues highlighted in that as well. I showed you, I'm running out of time, I showed you the test SSL run earlier. Some manual verification. You can check the certificate in your browser. I'll not show you because I don't have time, but very simply, beside the URL, you can click on a button and drill in to see the certificate, see if it's out of date. So manual verification, sorry, I can't see that. These are some commands from OpenSSL. There's a bunch of OpenSSL commands you can manually check for the ciphers supported. And there's references in the slides to those. So that is me. Thank you very much.